What were the shadow monsters at Thriller Bark? Why is there a giant straw hat in Ambereddraws without a giant head to plonk it on? And how does this teapot have such gigantic balls that they can more accurately be described as dual moons orbiting the One Piece planet? All of these questions and more have been asked, and maybe we'll answer them. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam, and when I was younger than I am now, I used to spell mystery with an I, because that's how words work. I mean, you've got things like Mr. and misery, so you put them together and you get mystery. But no, according to English, it is mystery. But I'll save my war on English for another time because we are here to dissect the most delectable mystery dishes of One Piece, served by Michelin star chef and professional narrative cock tease Eiichiro Oda. Maybe I should have called him a cook tease to go with the chef theme, but it's too late now. And for this video, I asked the Grand Fleet to name the One Piece mystery that they most want to see solved. And let's just say that some people have interesting priorities with what they want to see most. And if what you want to see most is consistent injections of One Piece culture administered directly into your YouTube feed, then you should hit the subscribe button for the Grand Line Review. That's what all the people who don't suck do anyway. And you don't suck, do you? So please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. But let's hop into things with, I'm really looking forward to figuring out what happened in the Void Century. Like what happened that was so bad they tried removing it from history. Tried and succeeded, I should add. And just as a fun fact, the Void Century is based on a real historical concept. And when I say concept, I of course mean conspiracy. There's a particular thought known as the Phantom Time Hypothesis, which asserts that a Roman emperor, a Byzantine emperor, and the Pope at the time got together, created a new dating system, and rewrote history to place them in the year 1000 AD, effectively eradicating 297 years of history. But really, I think that Doflamingo said it best during Marineford when he had a speech about how of course justice will prevail, because justice is defined by whichever side wins the war. And that is what the Void Century is all about. The world government probably did some horrific crap that no amount of propaganda could twist in their favor. So instead, they just went Control, A, Delete. Easy. I want to know more about the Emerald City. I know other major mysteries are great, but they will probably be solved, which just makes the smaller ones that much more enticing since we may never get canon answers. The Emerald City is one of those funny things. It was mentioned by Bellamy in chapter 224 as being an absurd legend alongside the City of Gold and of course the One Piece, the latter two of which we know for sure exist. So there's a French expression that applies here, and I am going to attempt to say it. Apologies in advance. Jamais deux sans trois. Literally meaning never twice without a third time. Which sucks for the number 2 because according to this philosophy, it essentially no longer exists. You go from 1 and then straight to 3, which is what we as a fan base have done with the Emerald City. I'm not personally convinced that Oda ever planned on doing anything with it. If anything, it seems more like a situation where he just needed a third ridiculous thing, saw The Wizard of Oz on his bookshelf and went, yeah, that'll work. But because this is One Piece, I will never discount that it could happen, even though it's only been mentioned one time close to 2 decades ago. Even though a fair amount of it can be inferred, I really want to see Kuma's whole story. That sounds like a lot of fun actually. Let's infer Kuma's story. Once upon a time, there was a rather portly king named Bartholomew Kuma. He ruled over the Sorbet Kingdom, a key rival to the neighboring nation of the Ice Cream Kingdom. Kuma was beloved as a ruler because Sorbet was more friendly to the lactose intolerant, whilst the dairy fiends of the Ice Cream Kingdom were intolerant of the lactose intolerant. However, one day Kuma ate the entire nation's supply of sorbet, leading to him becoming known as a tyrant. And also, he was a robot. The end. But in all seriousness, it is going to be tragic as crap. And I even have a special box of Kuma flashback tissues prepared for when that backstory begins. Old Man Vegapunk Story is what I'm most looking forward to, those mysteries bound to fill in some hefty gaps. Vegapunk fascinates me, mostly because of his aubergine head, but I'm also really curious as to what kind of person he is. There's a lot of conflicting accounts of Vegapunk in the series. In some stories, he is shown to have a very high degree of moral integrity, such as his time with Caesar or keeping his promise with Kuma when, well, realistically, he could have done whatever he wanted after the full cyborg conversion. But then you also hear about his time with Judge doing super questionable crap on various illegal research teams, and of course everything he does now services the tyranny of the world government. So what I'm currently expecting is that maybe like many of the Marines, Vegapunk could have his own personal code of justice, like scientific justice, always taking the path that will serve the betterment of his field. But then again, maybe he's just a wacky eggplant. How come that living teapot is on Wano when supposedly it was Vegapunk who created living objects? So I mentioned this in the intro, but what what this Grand Fleet member is referring to is Bunbuku, Tama's teapot, which is confirmed to be a teapot imbued with the powers of a Tanuki devil fruit. And it's obviously not the first object using a fruit we've seen, but it is the most curious, simply due to Wano's isolationism. So if Bunbuku was created by Vegapunk, how did he end up on Wano? And if not, how does he exist at all? Unless Vegapunk has been to Wano, but we have nothing to suggest that. So that is the core question of the most irrelevant mystery in all of One Piece. What if happened to Gin after Baratie arc? He's dead. What is the highest known bounty that was actually collected by someone? They're pretty symbolic, but I would like to know if anyone ever got paid for taking down a big pirate. This is actually a very interesting question, and I'm going to try and figure it out. It's tricky though, because bounties are only paid out specifically to bounty hunters, civilians, or warlords. If Marines catch criminals, that's their job, and they don't get paid extra because their payment is knowing that sweet, sweet justice was served. So we've got to find a civilian captured criminal, which is surprisingly difficult. And in theory, I think it would be Jinbei, because he caught Caribou and delivered him to the G5 base, meaning that he would have been eligible for Caribou's 210 million berry bounty. But then again, he was also a pirate, so would they have paid him? I don't know, and if they did, would he have accepted it or not? It's also really difficult because I don't think we've ever seen a bounty hunter canonically claim a bounty in the series, so the answer may very well be no one, nothing. No bounties ever. The tragedy/tragedies that Fujitora witnessed. This one is very much a be careful what you wish for kind of situation. I actually asked the Grand Fleet once what they thought of this tragedy, and 99% of the answers went as follows. He saw Big Mom in the shower. He saw Big Mom and Kaido making Emperor babies. He saw Big Mom banging your mom, who is also big, but not quite as big. And that day taught me a very valuable lesson about what kind of questions to ask all of you. Why do devil fruits actually take away the ability to swim? That has always been a mystery for me. I refuse to accept the given explanation that the water hates them. Yeah, me too. As time goes on, devil fruits become far less magical and far more scientifical, which I don't think is a word, but it is now. So whatever happened with the ability to swim was either an unintentional side effect or some sort of necessary sacrifice required to manipulate someone or something's lineage factor. That or the rarely brought up idea that this was an intentional curse. It's weird to think about because if you're making a super fruit, then why purposely make them bad? But perhaps the original crafters saw the need for these powers to have some sort of detriment or failsafe in case they ever ended up in the wrong hands. Especially Robin's devil fruit, because that one only gives the wrong hands access to hundreds and hundreds of more wrong hands. Logically, why can Sanji produce fire? Good question, and I'm also going to add Luffy into this discussion. Both of them can conjure fire as part of a specific attack, and I think we're getting very close to an actual answer with this. With the introduction of King's race who can actually create fire, I don't think it's out of the question to suggest that Luffy and Sanji may be descendants of this now practically extinct ancient tribe. That's logically anyway, though it doesn't always have to go that way, especially in a fictional pirate comic. It could be as simple as the manifestation of Sanji's blazing passion, or actually in his case even Joma augmentations. There's a lot of explanations. Why Toei claims legal One Piece content on YouTube? Ah yes, the greatest mystery of all. I'm not going to get into it here, but if you're interested, I did make an entirely new channel called Dude in a Room to talk about the Toei Totally Not Marked situation, and now it's kind of evolved into a general commentary channel, so I'll leave a link in the description if you are keen on checking it out. The history about the egg in the Oro Jackson. You want to know the sad thing about the egg? Roger probably never got to see it hatch. When he disbanded his crew, the egg was still well and truly an egg, and it may also have to do with Roger's statement on Laugh Tale about them being too early to make use of whatever he found on the island, which leads to all sorts of fun thoughts, like the egg either being related to or even being the ancient weapon Uranus itself, like say a giant rock bird with special powers to command the skies, or some stuff along those lines, which is possible because it wouldn't be the first ancient weapon to reincarnate into different life forms, so why not? Bird weapon, haha! The reason why people keep growing at age 40, specifically in a boob manner. I know this is a joke thing, but I'm not sure if this is true. Because sure, Nami and Robin do seem to perpetually inflate, but they are nowhere near 40. And every breast wielder over the age of 40 seems to be fairly consistent in this area, and I'm sure they are quite thankful for that, because otherwise things would seriously spiral out of control. The Underworld. And I'm not talking about the Underworld where Dofi and other people got invented to the Tea Party who work there, guessing that was meant to be invited. I'm talking about the Underworld where Brook gets his powers from. The chilling winds of the Underworld. I mean, look, that's a thing. There is a confirmed afterlife in One Piece. The soul has been proven to exist, and it does go somewhere after death in most cases, unless you've eaten a special special soul devil fruit, or unless you allow G, who can do it for reasons. But if you're not one of those two things, it does pass on, and okay, it's got to end up somewhere. The shadows at the end of Thriller Bark and the moon thing the Capone pirates found when they went into the New World. Yeah, so I think we've all spoken about the Thriller Bark shadows pretty much to death, but there is also a massive mystery with whatever the crap abducted Capone right before the time skip. That massive moon-like object, was it an island? Was it a ship? Was it a living creature? It's the sort of thing that really makes me want a series of One Piece spin-offs, like a 2 to 3 chapter series of Capone's experience with the whatever it was, who Luffy's mom is, and why she's been missing the whole series. No, I'm pretty sure we saw Crocodile during Alabasta. The giant straw hat that Emu has. You know what they say about people with big hats? Really small penises, and the hats are designed to draw their attention elsewhere. But my favorite train of thought with this so far is that Joy Boy was actually a giant. And I think that would be a great twist on the expectation that it's another person who looks exactly like Luffy and Roger. But you know, maybe he does look exactly like them, just like way bigger. And it might also tie up a few loose ends in regards to Soul and the other alleged giants with the initial G. G? What? I meant to say D. Holy crap, that was bad. I'm reading a script and everything. How did that happen? Let's do it again. And it also ties up a few loose ends in regards to Soul and the other alleged giants with the initial D. Plus, if we're looking to bring the story of Elbaf into the mix, a giant Joy Boy is a pretty perfect vehicle for that. What is Whoop Slap's backstory when he questioned Luffy's fate? What does he know that the audience doesn't? Everything. And I'm being serious, Whoop Slap knows far more than a mayor of any country village should. The question is, why does he know? Assumedly this information would have come courtesy of Garp, but why would Garp choose to confide in Whoop Slap of all people? That is the true mystery. I like how none of these comments are about what is the One Piece. That is true. I read through hundreds of comments and I don't recall seeing a single person who wanted this mystery solved the most, which I get completely. If I could, I'd probably want this mystery to last forever, because as soon as we find out, that signals the end of One Piece. And because I don't want that or this video to end, here is another one, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.